Long, long ago, at the edge of the vast African savanna, there was a place where the deep forest met a small human village. Here, animals and people lived in a delicate balance. The land was generous, the crops grew tall and strong, and the villagers held a deep respect for the natural world around them. It was a peaceful existence, a harmony between civilization and the wild. But just beyond the tall grasses and the scattered acacia trees lived a hyena. This wasn't just any hyena. His hunger was a bottomless pit, a craving that was never, ever satisfied. Throughout the land, from the driest plains to the greenest riverbanks, he was infamous for his insatiable greed and his cold cruelty. His shadow brought fear. He would creep into the village under the cloak of night, his eyes glinting in the moonlight, and steal livestock from their pens. The bleating of a stolen goat would be the last sound heard before silence fell again. He found a twisted delight in frightening the village children, his eerie, high-pitched laughter echoing through the darkness, making them pull their blankets tighter. And for the smaller animals of the savannah, he was a walking nightmare, attacking them whenever the whim struck him, for sport as much as for food. The villagers, a resilient and proud people, did not stand by idly. They tried everything they could think of to protect their homes and their families. They built stronger fences, set clever traps, and lit great bonfires that danced all night long. Brave men and women stood watch, their spears ready, their eyes scanning the darkness. But each time, the hyena outsmarted them. He was a blur of motion, a master of stealth, and his sharp teeth were a fearsome defense. With every failed attempt, the hyena would escape, his mocking laughter trailing behind him, a sound that seemed to jeer at their efforts and amplify their despair. Fear, once a stranger, slowly became a permanent resident in the village. As the moon waxed and waned, the losses mounted. One night, a goat would disappear. The next, a whole coop of chickens would be found empty, with only a few scattered feathers left behind. The villagers grew more and more desperate. The constant threat wore them down, chipping away at their sense of security and hope. The joy of the harvest was tainted by the fear of the night. Among the many animals that called this land home, there was a small hare. He was not big. He was not strong. And he certainly wasn't frightening. But what he lacked in physical might, he more than made up for with a mind that was sharper than any claw and quicker than any predator. The hare was an observer. He watched everything. He saw the hyena's predictable patterns, his swaggering arrogance, and his fatal flaw, the absolute belief that no one, and nothing, could ever defeat him. While others scurried and panicked at the mere mention of the hyena, the hare watched, and he thought. And in the quiet stillness of his mind, a plan began to form, piece by clever piece. One evening, the atmosphere in the village was heavier than ever before. The elders and families had gathered around the central fire, their faces etched with worry. The talk was somber. They were discussing the unthinkable, abandoning their homes, the land their ancestors had tilled for generations. It was a conversation of last resort, a testament to their utter desperation. It was at this very moment that the small hare hopped into the circle of firelight. A hush fell over the villagers. An animal addressing them was unheard of, but they were so desperate that they were willing to listen to anyone, even a creature so small. The hare spoke, his voice calm and steady. He promised them that he could rid their village of the hyena, once and for all. He had only one condition: they had to trust his wisdom completely. The villagers looked at each other, then at the small, unassuming hare. With so little left to lose and a sliver of hope rekindled in their hearts, they agreed. That very same night, under a sky full of stars, the hare set out to find his nemesis. He found the hyena gnawing on a bone, looking bored and restless. The hare didn't approach with fear, but with an air of respect. He greeted the hyena politely, his words smooth and flattering. He praised the hyena's unmatched strength, his legendary cunning, his reputation as the most powerful animal in the land. The hyena, whose ego was as large as his appetite, puffed out his chest. He was not used to being praised, and he liked it. He leaned in as the hare lowered his voice to a conspiratorial whisper. The hare spoke of a secret, a great feast hidden deep within the forest. He described mountains of meat, rivers of milk, more food than the hyena could eat in a lifetime. The hyena's eyes, already bright, now gleamed with an intense, greedy light. The image of the feast consumed his thoughts. But, the hare added, there was a catch. He warned that this magnificent feast was guarded by powerful spirits of the forest. It could only be claimed, he said, by the bravest and most fearless of all creatures. The hyena let out a loud, contemptuous laugh. The idea of spirits or any kind of danger was ridiculous to him. He, the terror of the savannah, afraid of shadows. Blinded by his own arrogance and the promise of a full belly, he scoffed at the warning and demanded to be taken to this feast at once. The hare, hiding a small smile, agreed. He led the hyena away from the familiar paths, taking him on a winding, twisting journey through the darkest parts of the forest. The moon was hidden by thick clouds, and the unfamiliar sounds of the deep woods surrounded them. Finally, they arrived at a clearing. In the center was a deep, dark pit, its sides steep and smooth. It was an old trap, dug by hunters long ago and since abandoned. The hare stopped at the edge. He pointed a paw into the blackness. The great feast, he declared, lay at the bottom. But the spirits had a rule: to prove his worth, the claimant had to enter the pit alone. The hyena needed no more convincing. Without a single moment of hesitation, without even peering into the darkness to check, he took a great leap and plunged into the pit. He landed with a hard thud at the bottom. It was only then, as his eyes adjusted to the pitch black, that he realized the truth. There was no feast. There was only dirt, and silence, and the smooth, inescapable walls of the pit. He had been tricked. A howl of pure, unadulterated rage ripped from his throat, echoing up into the night sky. But it was too late. The hare was already gone, running back to the village as fast as his legs could carry him. At the first light of dawn, the villagers followed the hare's path to the pit. They heard the hyena's furious snarls and desperate cries from below. Without ceremony, they worked together, rolling massive stones and logs to seal the top of the pit, ensuring the greedy predator could never harm anyone ever again. And just like that, peace returned to the land. A tranquility they had almost forgotten settled back over the village and the savannah. The crops grew taller, the animals roamed freely without looking over their shoulders. And the sound of children's laughter, real and joyful, once again filled the air, replacing the echoes of fear. The little hare returned to his quiet life in the fields. He never boasted, never sought praise for his incredible victory. He was content to simply be. But the villagers never forgot. They remembered his courage and his cleverness, and they told the story to their children, and their children's children. And so, the land learned a timeless and powerful lesson, a lesson that was passed down through generations.